Welcome, Parshat Vayishlach. So if you would like to turn to page 175, we're going to start with a pasuk over here. We're going to see the connection between this week's Parsha and Chanukah. Chanukah is a week and a half away, but something is so vital, so crucial to Chanukah over here to understand what's going on with Chanukah and the Greeks and their whole mindset and their whole ideology and what they try to do to Klal Yisrael. It happens in this week's Parsha. Everything we know is sourced in the Chumash, and based on what happens in this week's Parsha, we can understand a lot about our history. So, the first thing that we have to mention is in davening. We have something, an enigma in davening, something that happens different in the Shemona Esrei of Chanukah. Right? We have Shemona Esrei regular throughout the whole year, but we add one thing. Al Hanisim. Now we add this prayer of the miracles that Hashem made for us. What's unique about that Al Hanisim is that when we usually add an addition to the Shemona Esrei, for example, on Rosh Chodesh, or on Pesach, Passover, or on Sukkot, we add that blessing in what's called Ritzei. Okay, Ritzei is the blessing we added in right there. We have this insertion. But this blessing, the insertion for Chanukah, is not there. It's in a different place altogether. It's in the blessing of Modim, the next blessing. Okay, so it's close, one blessing off. But why did our sages see fit to change and to deviate from the standard of putting the insertion over here in Ritzei and to putting it over here in Modim? So what is Modim? Modim is simply to give thanks. Modim is to give thanks to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's a blessing. We thank Hashem for our lives, our souls, our spiritual well-being, everything that He gives us. So the idea of Hodah, of giving thanks, of giving praise and thanks to Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is where we put the blessing of Chanukah. And like we say in the prayers of Chanukah, that it's a time, a special time of giving thanks and giving praise to Hashem. So it's fitting we put it in that prayer of the Shemona Esrei. Chanukah is a time about thanks to Hashem, so put it in the blessing of thanks in Shemona Esrei. That's why we think on a simple level. But what we have to understand is that this is what the Greeks wanted to uproot from us. They wanted to uproot the idea of this connection to Hashem where I have a personal obligation to give thanks to Hashem. I have a personal relationship with Hashem, and therefore everything He does for me, I have to give thanks. And they try to take that away from us, which is indicated in our sages say that they told the Jewish people to write certain words on the horn of an ox. They wanted us to write the words, "We have no portion in the God of Israel." That's what they wanted us to write. Very interesting. What were they trying to hint to us? Well, Jewish people, maybe you were picked once upon a time, but you had a certain sin, the sin of the golden calf, right? Which is a baby cow, and God, you blew it. You blew your chance, so God doesn't want you anymore. So write those words on the horn of an ox. You have no portion in the God of Israel. Yeah, maybe there's a God, and maybe He is here somewhere, but you have no portion. You have nothing special with Him. That's what they tried to uproot from us. So therefore, specifically, we go out of the way and say, no, Chanukah is a time when we put a blessing of our special thanks and gratitude to Hashem. We have a special prayer for that, and we insert it in the prayer of thanksgiving. Now, this idea is also symbolized in the character trait of Hod. We know there is different supernal traits of Kadosh Baruch Hu that Hashem, so to speak, runs the world with. We've all heard them. Avram is the pillar of chesed, of kindness. He represents that paradigm of kindness. Yitzchak is gvura, of strict justice and eternal strength. What is Yaakov? He's Tiferes, he's perfection. He's the perfect blend of kindness and inner strength. He's a perfect combination of the two. Then we have Netzach, which is two ways to describe that. One is Netzach is eternity, and one is victory. Okay? That's symbolized by, so kindness is the right hand, Gvura is the left hand, Yaakov is the body, he's the perfection, he's the middle, and Netzach is the right leg. The left leg symbolizes Hod, the character trait of Hod. Now, Hod, like we've been saying, is this idea of Hodah, of giving thanks, to be modim, to admit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that runs the world and to give thanks to Him. This is what the Yevanim, the Greeks, wanted to uproot. They wanted to uproot this idea, which is just interesting also. The Gemara in Brachas says, there's a verse we say every morning in davening, L'cha Hashem, to you Hashem, Hagedula, V'Hagvura, V'Tferes, the greatness, the strength, the perfection, Hahod, V'Anetzach, V'Hod. Ki chol Hashemayim V'Aretz. Everything is yours. These represents these different midos, these different character traits, and the Gemara expounds on each one of these words, each one of these terms. Gedula represents one thing, kindness. What does Hod in this verse represent? The Gemara says it represents the Beis HaMikdash. So we also see another thing right now, that Hod, this place of Hod, the left leg somehow symbolizes the hip, symbolizes the Beis HaMikdash. What's the connection? And this is what the Yavanim, the Greeks, wanted to uproot. Interesting enough, they didn't destroy the temple. They said, no, keep it up. It's beautiful. We'll make it into a historical edifice that you once were here, and there was such a thing as a Jewish people, and it'll be like a historical fact that you had this nice cultural piece in your society. That's what. But connection to God, no, that's too far already. That we want to uproot. We want to take that away. So Hod, the Beis HaMikdash, they wanted to uproot. They wanted to say, stop saying thanks to Hashem, stop admitting to Hashem. This is what they wanted to do. This is background information to what we want to talk about now. So this verse that we're looking at on page 175 is after Yaakov Avinu. We know he has this dialogue through emissaries, through angels to Esav HaRasha. Esav's coming to see him. He sends a gift, a big tribute. He sends angels, say, I'm coming to greet you. Whole dialogue through, there's no texting back then, so they had, through the angels were sending the messages. Finally, the night before they're going to meet each other, Yaakov has two camps. He has his wives and his children, and he takes them across the Yavok, this river, passes over, and he realizes, I forgot something on the other side. He goes back to get it. What happens? Torah tells us he had an encounter with an angel, the angel of Esav, the Sar Shel Esav, who we know, our sages say, not just a regular angel. This is a very bad one. The Malach HaMavos, the Yitzchak, it's described in different things. The angel of death, the Yitzchak. This is who we're talking about. He had a physical war with this angel. They wanted to kill him. And the angel could not overcome him. And Yaakov fought until daybreak, until the angel said, let me go. Enough, I got to go. And Yaakov said, I'm not letting you go until you give me a bracha. This whole dialogue has a lot of deep things to talk about. But what he says, with a simple level, what the verse says, he says, let me go. He saw he could not win. So the angel hit him on his hip socket and dislocated his hip, dislocated his leg. If you look in verse 26. When he perceived he could not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip, which the words in Hebrew are V'teika Kaf Yerech Yaakov. He dislocated the thigh of Yaakov when he was wrestling with him. And then he said, let me go. And finally, that ended the story. What's this idea of he hit the hip? Right? If we can start putting a little together, just very on the surface, we just mentioned, the hip is the place where if a person wants to bow down to Hashem, let's say in the bracha of Modim, the blessing in Shemona Esrei, you want to bow down to Hashem? Where do you bow down? At your waist, where your thighs are. That's where you connect your upper and lower half of your body. You want to be subservient to Hashem and recognize there's a master of the world. He is my master and I have to thank him and bow down to him. Where do I bow from? My hip. What if your hip was something very hard, very inflexible? Let's say it was made out of metal. Could you bend down? No, you couldn't bend down. There's no flexibility there. There's no subservience. So we see that's what he wanted to do. He was striking him on that place, the place where you specifically bow down and show your gratefulness to Hashem, where you can be mishtachava, you can bow down in the hip, touched him right there. No more bowing down. No more bowing down to Hashem. No more giving thanks. That's what the angel was starting to do. Now let's look at this in a little more depth and with some background. That we find a verse in Daniel, the book of Daniel. Now the book of Daniel is profound, and he had a lot of visions of the different exiles and even the redemption. Daniel says the following. He had a vision of when he was in Babylon. He was taken from Nebuchadnezzar. They were taken to Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And he had a dream of a certain beast, and it was a very, very scary dream, and he had no one that could interpret for him. And he got crazy because of it. He couldn't do anything, and he got all his advisors, all his fortune tellers, everyone to start saying, what's this dream about? No one could satisfy him. He said, if you don't start telling me, I'm going to start killing people. I'm going to start making this crazy. He said, you know what? He was going to take out his fury on the Jewish people, on the sages. And it sounds like he actually started carrying out that anger. The night before he actually started carrying out that decree, though, Daniel davened very hard. God should give me inspiration, divine inspiration, to understand the dream, to be able to give a good interpretation, to save the sages, save the Jews. That night, God came to him in a dream, gave him the interpretation of the dream. He comes, shows up the next day. Stop, don't kill any more people. I'll tell you exactly what you want to know, King. This is what the dream is. And he talks about the dream, and he says the following. He says, King, behold, you were watching, behold, a huge statue. The statue was immense, brightness was extraordinary, it stood opposite of you, and its appearance was fearsome. The head was of fine gold. Its chest and arms were made of silver. Its belly and thighs were made of nechoshes, copper. Its legs of iron, and its feet partly of iron and partly of earthenware. You watch, the stone was hewn from without them, and they crumbled. The iron, the earthenware, the copper, the silver, the gold became like just nothing, like chaff on the summer threshing floor, and it all got blown away, and no trace was left of them. And then the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the entire earth. This is the dream, and we'll tell its interpretation before the king. Okay? We see something over here very interesting. The verse that talks about its thighs, Hu tzalmei reisha di zahav, he says over here, V'yarka se di nachash. Its thighs were made out of copper. Interesting. What were we saying before? If you'd want to bow down and you had let's say a copper thigh, could you do it? You had a bad prosthetic limb, right? They put copper in there. Couldn't bow down anymore. So what is this copper thigh? What are these different things over here? So these 4 different types of materials represent, in the head, the body, the legs, and the feet, represent the 4 different exiles. Okay? The thigh, our sages tell us, represents the exile of Greece, of Yavan. They're represented by the thigh. So we see that the main flaw over here, the main thing that they wanted to impose upon us, had to do something with the flaw, with the thigh. The Greeks, if they're represented by the copperness of and it was put in the thigh, so something represents the thigh is what they wanted to do. And number 2, they wanted to stop the bowing down, the giving thanks to Hashem. These are the 2 things that we see is what the Greeks wanted to do. Now, why specifically copper though? Why is it nechoshes? Why is this represented by copper over here? Everything we see gold and silver. Why are the Greeks represented by the copper of the thigh? So there's different ways to explain this. So in the Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema says 4 things. What are they? A person has to be bold like a leopard. He says, Havi az kanamer, be bold like a leopard. Oz is azus, is boldness. Be bold like a leopard. You have to be swift like a kal, like a nesher. Be light like a nesher, a eagle. Swift. Ratz ketzvi, you have to run fast like a gazelle. Gibor ke'ari, strong like a lion. To do the will of your Father in heaven. So this idea of azus is brazenness. Azus is the word for what we call, our sages use nechoshes, for copper for. There's a verse that says, mitzchacha nechusha, your forehead is like it's copper. You're brazen. You do things that are totally, like, how could you dare do such a thing? Such brazen chutzpah, such brazen indignation. How would you dare do such a thing? For example, someone gives you a gift and you don't say thank you. That's brazenness, right? Someone says, here, I want to give you something special. And you don't say thank you. And in fact, you just take it and you kick them. Who the heck are you? That's chutzpah, right? That's chutzpah. That's called azus. And that's what az kanemer, you have to be bold like a leopard. This azus is what Yavan wanted to do. Their boldness was such that, you know what? You can keep the temple up, you can have this up, but don't serve God. You want to practice Jewish custom? Very nice. Connect to God? Absolutely not. You are not connected at all. There's a certain brazenness. There's a certain chutzpah that they had. A certain copper-like mentality. Do not bend down. Do not have the subservience to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is oz kanemer. This is the brazenness of what the Yavanim wanted to do. So this is what Yehuda ben Tema is saying. We have to have this azus against that. It's called azus shebekadusha. We have to have brazenness to go against the tide, to go against society, go against what the world tells you to do. The world says you got to do this. No, I don't have to do that. I can be a Jew. I can live like a Jew, follow Torah, mitzvahs, and I don't have to listen to what the world says. I don't have to go with popular culture and ideologies of the world and do what they say. Absolutely not. That's the azus that Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema is telling us in Pirkei Avos. Now, we find another idea that in the Torah it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, at a certain point, the Jewish people complained, and God brought about them snakes that were biting them and killing them. It was causing a lot of problem in Parshat Chukas. What was the snake called? What is a snake? It's a nachash. It's a snake, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, what did he do? What was the antidote to healing this problem? Snake on a staff. What's that called? Nachash hanechoshes. He made a copper snake and put it on a stick. He made a copper snake saying, why? You're being very brazen right now. You're being brazen by complaining and asking questions on God. You know how you heal that? Look at this snake and you'll be healed. Wait, look at a snake and I'll be healed? No. Realize, look up to heaven, put your eyes upwards and realize there's a God. He takes care of you. He does only good to you. Maybe you don't understand the good, and maybe that's why you don't understand why things are happening, and that's why you're complaining. But realize the source is from a good source. And you're having brazenness to go against that right now. You must take that and fight those feelings you have inside you, fight the Yetzer Hara, and look at that. So therefore, look at that nachash hanachosh, that brazen, that copper snake, and start fighting the Yetzer Hara. But we see it's made out of copper once again. This idea of copper and brazenness. So the Rashi says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu make it out of copper, the copper snake? God didn't tell them to make it out of copper. He just said, make a snake, put it on a stick, they'll look at it and they'll become healed. I mean, the idea is they'll look up to heaven, they'll realize that they're doing wrong, they'll connect back to me, and they'll be healed from the snakes. But why do you make it out of copper? So Rashi says, no, because Lashon noifel al Lashon, Rashi says. It's a similar word. Nachash, snake, is similar to Nachoshes, to copper. So he made it out of copper. Oh, very good. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu did it. Moshe Rabbeinu was the smartest person who ever lived. He's gonna just do something simplistic like that. There's obviously depth to it. So we have to go back and we look at the story of the snake. Let's go back and look at the story of the Nachash and Chava. What did the Nachash do? What did he do? He had total brazen chutzpah. Total, absolute brazenness. Why? God told Adam and Chava, don't eat from this tree. And I don't want you to do that. You can eat whatever else you want. Don't have this. What do you say? Let me tell you, Chava, God doesn't want you to eat this from this tree because if you eat like it, you're going to be like him. And he's going to be jealous. He's talking bad about God. He's talking Lashon Hara. That's a lot of brazenness, I would say. So Chava listened, unfortunately, and she ate from it, right? And when she ate from it, they got a punishment. Adam got a punishment. What did Adam say, though, when God confronted him? God said, Adam, where are you? You messed up, buddy. What happened? He should have just said, I ate from the tree you told me not to eat from. But what did he say?
You, his wife.
The woman you gave me, it was her fault. You gave her to me. It's your fault. What does Rashi say? Kafui tova. He was blasphemed the kindness, the goodness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He denied Hashem's goodness. What do you mean? You gave me this woman and it's your fault, God. God made her an Ezer Kenegdo. I made you a helpmate. I made you your spouse, your soulmate, your perfection, your completion. I gave you the best thing possible for you. And you go and throw it back on me and say, it's my fault that you ate? You're blaming me? That's chutzpah. The Nachash, we see, had this attribute of Nachoshes, of copper, of brazen-like, not refusing to bow down, refusing to admit there's a God, refusing to take responsibility, and to go totally against the grain. And when Adam sinned, he took that quality and unfortunately, he incorporated it into his being. He denied the goodness of God. That is what the snake does. That is what the Yetzer Hara does. That is what Yavan does. They say, forget about the goodness of Hashem, deny the goodness of God, and you know what? You only have to bow down to yourself, basically. Don't bow down to anyone else. Be brazen. Have a copper thigh, like it's symbolized. Don't bow down. And stand up. Be your own person. Don't recognize there's someone above. That's what Yavan does. That's what they try to put into us. And that was what they wanted to do on Chanukah. But it's not the end of the story over here. Because why? We see something over here from our Parsha. Very interesting. Yaakov and Esav are born a few Parshas ago. And when Esav is born, what does it call him? The Torah says they grew up. Esav, Vahi Esav Ish Yodei Tzayid. He was a person that knew how to hunt. Ish Sadeh, a man of the field. Yaakov was Ish Tam Yoshev Ahalim. Learn Torah. Esav was out there in the field, doing he was supposed to work in the world and be a partner with Yaakov, but he didn't want it. You want to know what the Targum, you know what Targum is? The Targum, when you open the Chumash, so you have the Hebrew on the right side and you have the Aramaic on the left side. There's two types of Aramaic, or three types of Aramaic commentaries. They're all given at Mount Sinai. One is on the page, it's called Onkelos. One, if you open a Mikras Gedolos, with all the commentaries, there's a commentary in Aramaic from the Tana Rabbi Yonasan ben Uziel. Yonasan ben Uziel, he lived at the time of the Gemara. He was a student of Hillel. He was a very great person. He also wrote a commentary in Aramaic. You want to know how he translates those words? Very interesting. What does it mean? Esav was a man that knew how to hunt, a man of the field. Listen to these words. He translates it by saying, V'hava Esav gvar nashirchan. Let's look at the word. Let's spell it out. Nun ches shin yud reish chaf nun. Nachshirchan. Nachshirchan. What is nachshirchan? So if you look at the word, look at those first three letters. Nachshirchan. Nun, chet, shin. Nachash sounds like a little bit, no? Mm-hmm. So we have a couple commentaries saying, what is this translation that he's doing? One commentary says, it means that Esav was like, he was a batlan. He sat around, did nothing. He just was like a lazy guy. Another says he was like a quiet guy. He did his own thing. He didn't want to learn Torah. He just like kind of stayed out of, that's two commentaries. But then he brings a commentary based on the Zohar Kaddish. And you know what it says over there in the name of the Zohar? It says, this is half of a fella, it's unbelievable. Listen what it says about Esav. What does it mean? Nachshirchan, He was this person, Nachshirchan. It says, Siman Nachash al Yerechel Shel Esav. He had like a tattoo of a snake on his thigh. That's what the Zohar says. A tattoo of a snake was on the thigh of Esav. It's a hint that Esav was, so to speak, from the same breed of the snake. That's what it says in the Zohar Kodesh. This is unbelievable. This is incredible if we think about what we've been saying till now. What did the Greeks represent? Brazenness. Where does that brazenness take hold? Based on the nevuah, the prophecy of Daniel, the thigh, especially on the thigh. They had brazenness. What did the snake do? It wanted to deny the kindness of Hashem, to have brazenness, not to give thanks to Hashem. What do we see? Esav, the same exact thing. He had a tattoo of a snake on his thigh. To tell you, Esav is the exact same. He's like Yavan. He's like the Nachash. He's the exact same blend as them. Is that he says, there's no Kadosh Baruch. You don't have to give thanks to Hashem. You don't have to give thanks. Be brazen. Go against the tide. Go against the grain. That's what Esav did. He had a tattoo of a snake on his thigh. Half of a fella. And now we can understand what happened with this fight of Yaakov and Esav. What did he try to do? Well, they have a fight, and he realized, I can't win. I can't overcome Yaakov. He's too strong. He's too put together. But you know what I can do? I can hit him on his thigh. Hit him on his thigh. And we understand exactly, because that's where his strength lies. The strength of Esav, the strength of Yavan, the strength of the Nachash, the snake. Where does it all lie? Dafka, daika in the thigh. So that's why he hits him on the thigh, to try to uproot this idea from Klal Yisrael that you have to give thanks and have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what we find going on. And this is what all of Chanukah is about. Chanukah is about the fight between, yes, I believe in Hashem, and yes, I talk to Him, and yes, I have a relationship with Him, or no, I don't, or no, I'm cut off from Him, and I don't have to bow down. This is exactly why this comes up right now in this week's Parsha, and next week we're going to have Chanukah. It's telling you, this is the precursor to understanding the depth to what the Greeks wanted to do. They got it from Esav, they got it from the Nachash, and this is what Daniel prophesied about. This is what we find. We find other verses in the Torah that actually talk about such an idea, and I'd like to just read a couple things that we can see more of this idea. We find later in the Chumash, in Devarim, in chapter 8, verses 17 through 19, the Torah tells us, if you say in your heart that koichi ve'oitzim yadi, my own strength, my own hands, my own knowledge, my own money, everything, it's me. I did all this. I made all this greatness. See all this goodness in the world? I did it. See this great, sophisticated society, buildings, culture, everything? Oh, it's all me. I did it. God, there's no God. I did it. Didn't you see me doing it? There's no God that did it. It's me. God says, if you have that attitude, if you do that, v'zacharta, and you fail to remember that God is the one that does it, v'halachta achrei elohim achrim, and you go after other gods and you serve them and you bow down to them, God says, I promise you, it's going to be very bad. I'll destroy you. So God says, because you're not bowing down to me, you're bowing down to yourself. You're bowing down to the work of your own hands. That's the worst type of mentality, God says. Listen what the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says on this verse. I'll read it and I'll translate it. He says, a person, or maybe I'll just try to translate it without reading the Hebrew. He says, a person needs to place on his heart and remember always the goodness of Hashem. Because whatever he has, everything in the world, it only comes from Hashem. And when a person realizes this, that everything he has in his life, whether it's his knowledge, his intellect, whether it's his parnasa, whether it's his clothes, the food he eats, the place he lives, his family, every single thing he's got that's good in his whole life, he realizes it's from God. The air you're breathing right now, he realizes it's from God. He says that can always arouse you to recognize Him and His divine providence with you. And the beginning of the strategies of the Yetzer Hara is to make a person forget this. This is where the Yetzer Hara starts. You want to know where the Yetzer Hara comes into play? He immediately starts making you forget about the goodness of Hashem. That's where he comes in. So if a person would be constantly remembering the goodness of Hashem, he would never forget about Hashem. This is what he says. And from this is where he enters in to destroy a person. Halamadata, therefore, it teaches us, this verse, that remembering Hashem is a tremendous fence that you can put up so you can serve Hashem properly. And if a person is lacking in this, there's no lacking like this. And this is the entrance where the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, can come and push him until it push him down one level, next, until he's totally gone. That's what the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says. And he says further on, he ends his statement by saying, the entire success in a person's life, the life of a Jew, is all dependent upon remembering God. That's it. You want to be successful in life? Remember Hashem. Remember, does it mean you're going to walk out and become a millionaire? No, but it means you're going to be an upstanding, upright Jew. Because I remember, it's not from me. Yeah, I worked hard, but God made me successful. It's not because of me. It's because of Him. It's all from Hashem. So this is where the Yitzchak comes in. It starts to creep in when you start to think it's me, it's me, it's me, it's me, it's me. No, I'm nothing. Exactly. I'm like the spokes. I just turn the wheels. I'm just like, but whatever happens is from Him. Right? So that's what he says. We have one other interesting thing over here. Amazing concept. That there's a commentary. His name is the Shiltei Giburim. And he's one. If we look, flip in the back of these thick Gemaras, we have a lot of commentators. So one of the commentators, his name is the Mordechai. He lived 700, 800, 900 years ago. And there's a commentary that wrote on his commentary. Okay. He says an amazing thing, though. This is really, it's half of a fella. It's really incredible. If you look, actually, turn to Bereshis chapter 43, verse 16. 2 weeks from now, this will be Shabbos Chanukah. Every year it's Shabbos Chanukah. This parsha is always on Chanukah. No matter what, every year it's on Chanukah. So listen, we're going to have an incredible hint to Chanukah that he's going to teach us. We look in verse 16. This is in the midst of the story of the brothers. They went to Egypt. They went back home to Yaakov. Yaakov says, go back again. And they come back with a tribute to Yosef. They don't know he's Yosef. They think he's the second in command of Egypt. But they bring him a gift. And they're brought to his house. They say, today you have a great merit. You're going to eat with him. You're going to eat in his house today. And Yosef saw them coming, and he told the person that's commanded on his house, it was really his son, a Jew, Menashe, but the brothers didn't know that, the Shvatim didn't know that. And he tells his son, who is an Egyptian, he says, prepare for them food, because today they're going to eat with me. In the Hebrew, it says, the words are, it's the fourth and fifth Hebrew line. He says, bring them to my house, utvoach tevach, slaughter an animal, v'hachin, and prepare it. Ki iti yachlu hanashim batzarim, because they're going to eat with me today at noontime. Yeah? Slaughter an animal and bring it to me, and bring it and prepare it, and they're going to eat with me. Now, let me ask you a question. Everyone here keeps kosher, and you're busy looking at your bottle, if your food, if it has a good hechsher, you go into a restaurant, does it have the kosher sign, right? We're pretty careful on what we eat. Let's just ask. The 11 sons of Yaakov, who come down, right, to Egypt right now, they're going to a non-Jew's house, right? And he's going to bring out a nice roast, right? Do you think they're going to say, I'm just wondering, like, is that kosher? Like, is that a badatz hechsher on it, Mr. Egyptian? Like, you think they're going to care? They want to know what they're eating, right? They're not going to just eat his food. No way. People don't even, we don't walk into a pizza shop without looking at that. The Shvatim, the tribes, of course they're going to want to see it's kosher. How can they eat this? Joseph, who's playing Egyptian, tells his son who's playing Egyptian, prepare food, slaughter an animal, and then prepare it for them. Make a nice steak for every one of them. They're not going to want to know the hechsher? Of course they're going to want to know. So what do these words mean? So the Gemara in Chulin, the Gemara tells us, says, yeah, actually, they wanted to know the kasher. They were actually very concerned. And these words that we just said is when Yosef was telling them, show them the kashers. Why? It says, utvoyach tevach, slaughter an animal, means what I want you to do is, I want you to slaughter it in front of them so they should know that it's kosher. Okay? V'hachin, and prepare it. The Gemara says, what does it mean? The first word, utvayach, shecht it, and show them the place where you shechted it. They should know is kosher. Shecht it by them. V'hachin, and prepare it. Tu gid hanashe, take out the gid hanashe. Take out the, what is the gid hanashe called? The sciatic nerve. Take out the sciatic nerve from the animal. Take it out. Because Jews can't eat the sciatic nerve. Take it out in front of them. The Shiltei Giburim says, here we have a hint to Chanukah. Why do we have a hint to Chanukah? So let's first see the hint, and we'll understand something so amazing that the Torah puts in, Hashem puts in the Torah. Look at those words in Hebrew. Utvayach tevach v'hachin. Slaughter it, and on the word v'hachin, the Gemara says that word, v'hachin, prepare, means take out the sciatic nerve, take out the gid hanashe. Those words, look at those letters. Vav, Hey, Chaf, Nun. Yeah? Look at the letter right before it. It's a ches. What did that spell? Chanukah. The word tevach, the last letter is a ches. The word right after is v'hachin. Spells Chanukah. On the words, show them the shechita, and then take out the gid hanashe, take out the sciatic nerve. We see a hint of Chanukah. Oh, very interesting. Oh, is it just happenstance that every year this week's Parshat comes out on Chanukah and happens to be Chanukah? What is it teaching us, though? What is it teaching us? No? So let's understand something incredible. The Zohar HaKadosh says, why is it called the Gid HaNashe? Why do we call it the Gid HaNashe? What is this word Nashe? It's an interesting word. Gid means sinew. What is Nashe? The Zohar HaKadosh says, Keloimar, what does the Gid HaNashe do to a person? The Iu Menashe, it makes forget Lebnei Nashe to a person, Mipulchana de Marehon. It makes a person, the Gid HaNashe, if you would eat it, God forbid, you know what it would make a person, what would happen to a person? They would forget about serving Hashem. The Gid HaNashe is the thing in a person that if a person would eat it, they would forget about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where is the Gid HaNashe in an animal? It's in the thigh, right? Where do we learn out this mitzvah of Gid HaNashe? I'm just curious. This week's Parsha. From what incident? The angel hitting Yaakov on the thigh. Right there. Bam! So what do we learn from that? What is this hint? What is this telling us? This is telling us an unbelievable thing. What was the angel trying to do? Once again, the thigh is the place where it's copper. You bend down to Hashem. If it's soft, you can bend down. If it's copper, you can't bend down. What is Greece? Who are they represented by in that prophecy? They're represented by the copper thigh. Don't bend down. What does the snake say? The Nachash Nachashes? Don't bow down. Deny Hashem. Don't bow down to Hashem. What does Esav do? He hits Yaakov on the thigh. Don't bow down, Jewish people. Don't have a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, as a remembrance, what don't we eat? We don't eat the Gid HaNashe. We don't eat the Gid HaNashe because that is what makes you forget it. That is the lashon of Gid HaNashe. And where do we find a hint to that? Right here. The sages say, Chanukah. Tavoyach v'hachin. Take out the Gid HaNashe and show them you're not going to eat it. Because on Chanukah we learn, don't go near the Gid HaNashe. And therefore, where do we put the blessing of the special blessing of Chanukah? Daika specifically right in the blessing of Modim, where you bow down. We will bow down. We will not succumb to you, Yavin. We will not succumb to you, Esav. We will not succumb to you, Nachash. We will not succumb to you, Yitzchak. We'll bow down to Hashem. We'll have a relationship. We'll realize everything is good. It's from Hashem. And everything, even if we don't understand it, it's from Hashem and it's good. Because that's what Chanukah is about. Chanukah is about that recognition. And that's what Esav wanted to uproot from the Jewish people. And that's why on Chanukah, we specifically have this hint and we bow down in Modim. Another idea to end with, we see in a Mishnah in Talmud, there's a Mishnah, a tractate called Talmud. It talks about the measurements of Midos. Midos, we talk about the measurements of the Beis HaMikdash. And over there, it says an interesting thing, that when the Yevanim came to the Beis HaMikdash, they tried to they wanted to purify make it Beis HaMikdash impure. And one of the things they did was, there's a special demarcation line, place that Jews could go past and non-Jews could not go. And it was based on our relationship with Hashem. We can go a little farther. They can't go that far. So one of the first things they did was they took away that line. They said, no, there's no mixing between, there's no separation between Jew and non-Jew. We're all the same. We're all one humanity. We're all one part of the human race, and we all have to be together. This great idea, right? You're not special. You're not special Jews. We can go anywhere you can go. Okay? So one of the first things the sages did was they fixed this up. One of the first things the Greeks did when they came, they made 13 holes in this fence. 13 holes. So connected that, the Mishnah says, what do the sages do? The sages enacted that we have to do 13 things to correspond to the 13 holes they made that line. You know what the 13 things we do? 13 times we bow down. When you go to this place, we bow down 13 times. Why bow down? Why couldn't they say you give tzedakah? You do mitzvah? No, because we see right now, bowing down to Hashem separates between Jew and non-Jew, between Jew and Greek. Jewish mentality and Greek mentality is you don't have to have a relationship with Hashem. You don't have to bow down. You don't have to be subservient. Our mentality is no. Specifically, you have to bow down. You have to be subservient. Realize He's the boss. He's the master. So that's the first thing. That's what our sages reenacted. Now we understand that very good. A couple other things that we can understand. This was we made with our connection to us, that having this azus, this specialty. In Pirkei Avos it says people that have azus go to Gehenna. So it seems like it's a bad thing, right? Az panim laGehenna it says, but it says az panim also to Gan Eden. How could it be? How could it be if you have brazenness you go to Gan Eden or you go to Gehenna? How could it be? Because simply, if a person has brazenness to go against Hashem, we see how it could lead to Gehenna right away, like the Greeks wanted to do. But if a person has brazenness to fight the trends of whatever the modern society says, and fight the Yetzer Hara, you have brazenness to stand up for yourself and you stand up for what's right, that leads you to Gan Eden, because I won't transgress, I won't do an Aveira. right? And what do we say? There's a pasuk we say all the time at the end of davening. Hashem oz le'amo yiten. Hashem will give azus. He'll give that brazenness to the Jewish people. Hashem yivarech asamo v'shalom. If you have azus, if you use azus for the right thing, Hashem yivarech, He'll give us a special blessing. Hashem gave us a blessing. We can be hard-headed. We can have that forehead that's like copper. Why? Because you have to be able to fight the world. We have to just channel it the right way. But if you use that azus, Hashem oz le'amo yiten. Hashem gives you the azus. And then what do you get from that? Hashem yivarech asamo v'shalom. Hashem will bless us with peace. Very interesting. The word shalom, peace, is the same gematria as the word Esav. Because Esav, it says, no, don't use that. Don't have peace. Don't be with Hashem. And you have to, today's society tells you that. You have to stand up with that. You have to have azus. If you have that azus, right, you'll get shalom. Instead of Esav, you get shalom. You have the peace. Another thing, if we take the word oz, ayin zayin, and we add that to Yisrael, because we said, Hashem yivarech esamosh, Hashem will bless His people with peace. So we take His people, Yisrael, and you add the word oz to it. 541 plus 77 is 618 equals hatariag, the 613 mitzvahs. Because that is our greatest source of azus, of brazen, where we can brazenly defy the Yetzer Hara by performing the 613 mitzvahs. You do these 613 mitzvahs, you stand up against the Yetzer Hara, and you fight him, and you knock him down. He has no strength against you. And that's what we learn over here in this week's Parsha. And we can apply it to ourselves from Or Sameach. Why? Because if the Greek mentality and Greek life wanted to tear us away from Judaism, tear us away from our Jewish identity, and saying like, individuals to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and a unique nation, an Am Segula, a Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, a nation of priests, a holy people to Hashem, and to stay away from the Hellenistic culture lifestyle that still permeates the world today. If we want to do that, we have to fight Yavan, we have to fight Greek mentality, right? So we can do that here in Or Sameach. Number one, learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, davening. We see we can do that. But especially why we have the koach to do it, because if you take the word azus, brazenness, ve-yavan, and Greece, because that's what they stood for, azus and Greek, in Greek, that equals 555, which also equals exactly Or Sameach. Because Or Sameach gives the koach, being in a place like this, to stand up against the Greek mentality, stand up for what's right, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with azus shebekadusha. The Beis HaMikdash was tampered over here, was shepherded with, was knocked down. This year, Tafshin Ayin Vav, the gematria Bias HaMashiach, and many other gematrias like that. This year, the Mashiach coming, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring the Beis HaMikdash.